Good evening to everyone who's joining us this evening. Welcome to our online open event for our Masters or MSc in Sustainability in Agriculture and Business at SRUC, so Scotland's Rural College. My name is Anna Garcia. I'm the Postgraduate Marketing and Student Recruitment Officer, and so, as the name says, basically I support all of the programs in terms of marketing and obviously these events and making sure that people learn about SRUC and what we have to offer. So for this evening, just to explain to you what we have on for you, we have a presentation by a couple of our lecturers. So basically they are the two program leaders for the Sustainability in Agriculture and Business MSc. So their names are Dr. Lou Ralph and Dr. Robin Walker. They have prepared a nice presentation for you where they will talk a little bit about the program, what's expected, what sort of the structure is, and we also have a couple of our students with us this evening that will be able to talk to you a little bit about their experience with SRUC and as well with the online distance learning approach that we deliver for this particular program. So just to let you know, we can see that you're online, but we cannot hear you or see you. So if you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A box on the right hand side of your screen, and we will have a bit of a time at the end as well to go through any questions that you might have. So we hope that you enjoy it. So I'll pass the word to Lou, who will be starting the presentation just now.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see that so many people have signed up for this open evening. As Anna said, this is to introduce our new MSc PG Dip and PG Cert in Sustainability in Agriculture and Business. The programme format is part-time online distance learning, and you'll hear a bit more about this during the course of this evening. Could you switch slides, please, Robin? The awarding body for the Masters programme is the University of Glasgow. So that means that the University of Glasgow validate the programme and that graduation is held at the University of Glasgow. So it might seem a long way off now, but a couple of photos there showing what you can aspire to when we always have a great day celebrating students getting their awards at the end of whichever qualification they choose to take. Could you move on, please, Robin? So the fees for the coming academic year are shown on this slide here. You can hopefully see that for each year of the postgraduate certificate and diploma, the fees will vary slightly depending on whereabouts you live, whether you're in Scotland, the rest of the UK, or further afield than that. So in Scotland, it will cost you £3,500 each year for the PG Cert and PG Dip. If you're the rest of UK, that will be 4,000, and if you are an international student, it will be 8,000. So the fees depend on where you live, but also on particular residency criteria. So our admissions team will contact you to discuss this with you if necessary once you've put in your application. It's also possible just to sign up to individual modules, and those are charged at a pro rata rate. And the MSc project, the year is a little bit less expensive, with £2,750 if you're in Scotland or the rest of the UK, and £4,500 if you are an international student. It's possible that you might be able to get a part-time fee loan via either the Students' Award Agency for Scotland or equivalent organisation if you live elsewhere. And other funding may be available, such as a Change Your Path bursary for mature students coming to us for the first time, but our fees and funding officer can advise further on funding that might be available. In addition to this, there will be additional costs for the study weekends, both for travel to Aberdeen and accommodation while you are here. Could you move on, please, Robin? You can apply for the programme directly to SRUC via the website. So if you follow the link www.sruc.ac.uk/SAB, this will take you straight to the MSc page. and you'll find an Apply Now option on the web page, which you can just click on to get to the online application form. You'll find when you land on the MSc page that there is an option to toggle between the different levels of award. So the image inserted there into the slide shows you how you can choose whether you want to look at the information for the MSc, the postgrad certificate, or the postgrad diploma. Thanks, Robin. The programme format is based on part-time online distance learning, and we have a blended approach to our postgrad distance learning programmes, which means that we blend the online learning with study weekends. For the SAB programme, these will be held at our Aberdeen campus, and they will be held in September and January of each year. We do have an online classroom system whereby if you are unable to attend a study weekend, you can stream live into our classroom-based sessions and join in to those events live as they're happening. And they're also recorded so that you can catch up afterwards if you miss them. And we also do our utmost to record any of the field visits that we do and make those recordings available afterwards so you can get as good an experience as possible. Thanks, Robin. Our entry requirements for the programme are quite flexible. We will accept applications from anybody who has an honours degree or equivalent in a relevant subject area. But we also welcome applications from individuals with degrees in a wider range of disciplines or who have relevant experience, along with a clear motivation for the programme. So I think it's really important to make clear that all applications are assessed individually on their own merit. If you think that you may not be able to fulfil our criteria, then please do feel free to get in touch with us and we can have that conversation with you. Thanks, Robin. So the programme structure is basically broken down into 3 parts. The postgrad certificate comprises 4 taught modules, 2 of which are core and 2 of which are elective, and in total comprise 60 credits on the Scottish Qualifications and Credits Framework. The postgraduate diploma adds another 4 modules, so another 2 core and 2 elective modules to give a total of 8, with 120 credits on the SCQF framework. And if you want to complete the master's programme, which involves an additional independent research project, then that will comprise 180 credits on the SCQF framework. So we have these 3 different award options, and I think it's important to point out that these are all actually at the same academic level. So they're all at what we call level 11 on the framework. And the difference is in the number of credits that you study. So 60 for the postgrad certificate, 120 for the postgrad diploma, and 180 for the MSc. You can apply for any level that you choose to apply for. If you, for example, apply for a postgrad certificate, providing that you reach progression criteria, you can then progress to the postgraduate diploma and potentially onto the master's. I think it's also important to make clear that should you apply for one of the postgrad diploma or the MSc and then something happens, which means that you need to stop your studies before you've completed that award, it's possible for you to be awarded at a different level from that at which you originally applied. So we do really try and optimise the award which our students can achieve. Thanks, Robin. So having a little look at the programme content for the postgraduate certificate and diploma, the core modules of the programme will all run in the first semester of each year between September and January. In year 1, you'll study Principles and Policy for Sustainable Agriculture, looking at some of the underlying principles, maybe the standards and the policy relating to different agricultural systems. You'll also study soils in sustainable systems, because after all, soil is really underpinning to any kind of agricultural system. In the second year, the core modules are global challenges in agricultural systems, which will enable you to critically analyse a topic relating to agricultural systems within the global context. And you'll also study a research design and analysis module, which will set you in particularly good stead if you carry on to your master's year. The elective modules would all be in the second semester between January and May and include options from crops or livestock in sustainable systems, principles of marketing and communication, sustainable entrepreneurship, and financial management and business planning for sustainability objectives. Thanks, Robin. So just to clarify the duration of the programme, the postgrad certificate is structured to last for 1 year part-time study. It's useful to note that the University of Glasgow regulations that we work to do allow a maximum of 4 years to complete the postgrad certificate from the date of your first enrolment. Postgrad diploma, we would expect to be 2 years of part-time study, but again, you have the option for this to take a maximum of 4 years from the date of your first enrolment. And the masters we would normally expect to take 3 years part-time, but the maximum time that you can take to complete this from your first enrolment is 6 years. And again, these are the University of Glasgow regulations that we follow. Thanks, Robin. In terms of time commitment, as I've already mentioned, the postgrad certificate and diploma years have study weekends in Aberdeen, so those will be twice a year in September and January. The MSc is slightly differently structured, so you don't have weekends on campus, but you have online study sessions. And during the course of your studies, we would expect that you would be spending approximately 15 hours a week of self-directed study. The students who are on the call may have something to say about that. Could you move on, please, Robin? In terms of the awards that are on offer, the end of year 1 will give you a postgraduate certificate, which is 4 taught modules. If you opt for the postgrad diploma, you will receive that after 2 years when you've done an additional 4 taught modules. And if you have applied for the Master of Science, you will complete that in year 3 as an independent research project. So that's the end of my part of the presentation. I'd like to hand over now to my colleague and co-lead of the programme, Robin Walker, who will take you through the rest of it. Thanks, Robin.
Hello. So yeah, my name's Robin Walker, and as Lou said, I'm co-lead of the programme. So in terms of the calendar, the main teaching blocks, as Lou mentioned briefly earlier, are September through to January, and then the second block is January through to May. So obviously the start of those blocks is when we start the different modules that are taking place in those particular teaching blocks. The other thing that we use is Moodle, which is our virtual learning environment. And this has a range of content in it. So there's module content, so the various modules that you're being taught, it'll have all the information in there, also about all the assessments and things like that. But we also use the virtual classroom. So when we're having hybrid sessions, we have the option of using these. And basically it is a classroom that you go into virtually, and it's essentially the same as if you walked into the room, except everybody's on the screen like they are in the current situation here. So Kaltura is the name of that classroom. And again, we can record those sessions and make them available for students to look at latterly, whether they were already in the meeting itself, but also if students weren't able to make the particular session for any reason, they're able to go back and go through the information that was being presented at the time or discussed at the time. There's also a lot of general student information, and the picture on the right hand side shows the links to these tiles. So if you link into there, you get lots of information to help support you in various aspects of your online study. And there's also access to the SRUC library, and if you're a student, you get access to a much broader range of databases in terms of things like peer-reviewed papers than you would normally if you just Googled them. So that's really quite a useful thing to be able to have. In terms of learning strategies, there's self-directed study, so you go off and you're searching out information yourself. Obviously, there'll be a lot of reading required. Academic writing is something which some students may not have done for a while or very little. So one of the aspects that we do early on is to try and improve that, or certainly give lots of guidance in terms of how you should approach your academic writing style. And a big part of the course or the program is actually being able to critically analyze other people's writing, whether it's academic or otherwise. So it's basically trying to kind of make sure that you are gathering information which is of sound basis or evidence based, and taking that on board and sifting out information which is maybe from a less reliable source, and analysing that and summarising it in some way or shape or form. Some of the assessments would be in terms of presentations, so you would have to give presentations. There's a range of other ways which you would be assessed as well. There'd be a lot of the online sessions, and during the study weekends would there be a lot of discussion about various topics as well, some with the lecturers, but also we draw in specialists in certain areas as well. So we'll bring those into the conversation, we can discuss that, and the students have the ability to well, chat basically with people in the industry who are well known on that side of things. Obviously, we need to assess you to make sure that you've reached the level required. And as mentioned before, there's various online tutorials will take place, often using the Kaltura, but sometimes using Teams or other online methods. So the study weekends have been mentioned. So these are just a few pictures from some of the recent ones. So obviously it's an opportunity to meet staff and fellow students as well from the first 2 years of the programme. It's also an option to, basically it's an opportunity to introduce the new modules as well, because these take place at the start of each of the 2 teaching blocks, of the September and the January ones. And it also allows the lecturers to provide information in terms of the assessments and what's going to be expected of you during those particular modules that you're taking at that point in time. It's also a really good opportunity to visit a number of farms or agribusinesses. As I've said, there's a selection here from vertical farms through to dairy farms, etc. on the right hand side, with energy farming essentially, with the wind turbine in the background. And it's also an opportunity to bring in invited speakers on a live basis, but as I've said before, we'll sometimes bring those into some of the online sessions as well. And wherever we can, we'll try and record these sessions and make them available for people who weren't able to make the study weekend for some reason or another. So at least you get as much of the experience as possible. So yes, we've got the study weekend, so it's not just about the learning. There's quite a lot of emphasis in terms of your networking with fellow students and the lecturers. Also try and have a bit of fun in the evening as well. So there's various social events will be put on for you in the evening to get to know each other a bit better in a less formalised setting. So these just happen to be some of the burn suppers that have taken place recently. Obviously, you need to be able to learn something from the course or the courses. So what is needed for a good learning experience? So one of the key things with being online is good, reliable internet access. So that's really quite important. You also need to be able to have browsers such as Chrome or Firefox that can work more efficiently. A computer or device with a microphone, and preferably with a camera. It's quite nice to actually see people, even if they're just little squares on the screen rather than a blank screen. Sometimes we have a few issues with some of the Apple type devices, but there are fixes around that. But as I said, we have IT staff who know these, and we can get support from that to try and work out how to make things available. So it is possible to use other devices, but we are aware of one or two that can cause issues, and there are ways around that, but obviously we need to know about that. Also useful to have basic knowledge of Microsoft packages, so the standard kind of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, those kinds of things. So having some familiarity with those is also quite useful, because you'll need those, particularly in terms of the assessment and things like that. You also need to be able to actually concentrate, so having a quiet space dedicated for your learning is quite important, so you can squirrel yourself away and get into the information that you're trying to do and focus on that. As mentioned before, you need some time, and you certainly need the motivation to be able to undertake the course. As Lou mentioned, approximately 15 hours is maybe what we would say is fairly typical per week. Some weeks will be a bit more, some maybe a bit less, but you obviously need to have the time to be able to do that, and certainly the motivation to push yourself through. You also need to have an open mind with the desire to learn and succeed. As we said before, a lot of this is about critically analysing. So if you come in with preconceived ideas, it's quite useful to be able to actually revisit those and based on information and evidence that's been put forward to you, or you're finding in the literature, and be able to kind of change that. So come in with an open mind is good, and be willing to communicate, and also prepared to ask for help. As we know, students who enter postgraduate are usually mature students, usually got lots of things going on in their lives, and we want to make sure that you get the best experience possible. But if we don't know about any issues, it's really tricky for us to be able to actually put something in place to kind of help. So communication is really, really important. And that leads me on to our student support network. So we have a dedicated student support team. So there's educational support, there's pastoral support, there's a careers advice service, and I think Lou mentioned earlier, there's also fees and funding support as well, which can help you navigate some of the areas here. We have an IT service as well, so again they can help with some of the issues which may pop up. At the study weekends, we would typically, particularly the first one in September, we would typically have one of our IT staff on hand to make sure that people can access all the various online services that are required for the course to be able to access through the SRUC IT system. And there's also a kind of follow-up as well, whether they're readily available over the next week or so, to make sure that anybody who couldn't make the study weekend is also up to speed with all that kind of thing. And we have similar approach in terms of the library service as well. So again, at the study weekend, we typically have talk and examples provided by some of the librarians in terms of how to access these sorts of things. And basically, if there's any other additional support that you think you need or would be helpful, then certainly contact us and we will do our best to help. So if you haven't seen us already on the screen, Lou is at the top of the picture there, and her contact details are there as well, her email and phone number. And I'm the picture at the bottom in the green jacket. And again, you've got my contact details there. And we're both based at Craveston, which is SRUC's Aberdeen campus in Scotland, for those of you who aren't based in Scotland. So various methods of assessment are used. In terms of the two taught years, the PG Cert first year and the PG DIP second year, 4 taught modules in the first year and 4 taught modules in the second year, but all of the assessments are based on coursework, so there's no exams for that. If you moved on to the master's year, the progression is dependent on the overall grade achieved in the postgraduate diploma. So some of the grades in there will adjust your final grade in terms of the masters, and the assessment is through a project proposal. So you have to provide information about what you're going to study in terms of your project, the dissertation itself, and then you have to do a presentation of that dissertation as well. And finally, these are just some, I'm not going to talk through all of these, but I'll leave the screen up for a minute or two. But these are just some of the basically student feedback on the experience that they've had in some of our distance learning programs previously. So, and some of these programs have been running for more than 20 years actually. So, yeah, so some quite positive feedback there from a range of different on a range of different aspects, from the social side through to the academic side, and sort of career changing, improving confidence, all that kind of thing. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Thank you so much, Robin and Lou, for that. I hope that everyone has found that helpful. So as we mentioned, we do have a couple of our students on with us this evening. So I will start by introducing you to Joel, who is one of our third years for his MSc. So he's currently working on his dissertation. So I'll just pop you on, Joel. So Joel, if you would just like to tell us a little bit about yourself, how did you find obviously doing your MSc on this online distance learning module, online distance learning structure, and how did you find sort of your studies with SRUC?
Yeah, so I'm not fully from an agricultural background. My grandmother was a horticulturist and a market gardener, and I was in business doing other things, and I just wanted to study the whole aspects of the sustainability and business of agriculture. So I'm based in Ireland, and through NOTS I was able to get support from them financially and otherwise to be able to do it. And yeah, so I'm in year 3. It was quite something. I mean, I hadn't been in academia for a number of years. So as Robin was saying earlier, it was quite something to get back into writing, critical analysis, and doing everything. But the staff were like extremely supportive. It was kind of not necessarily in baby steps, but they took through the processes from very early on to make it a very indicative and very, a progression process. So that made it very easy. There was a lot of support. There was a lot of, even though it's a distance learning, with the online, the Moodle and all the elements that are up on it, with videos and all the kind of support documentation, I found it quite, it was a lot to get through, but yeah, it's all very useful. It's all very well set up. And I think as well, one of the things that struck me as well was that knowing a bit about agriculture and I was quite interested in policy and all that, but the quality of the tutors and the professors and the people that they invited in are really on top of their game in terms of, people who are writing policy documents for the EU or for the UK governments. So they're really, really top notch. So it was very beneficial to be able to get access to these people and their knowledge, and then also just, I suppose, within that whole progression. So yeah, so I'm in year 3 now, and I'm doing my MSc, and really it's been great. It's not easy going. There's a lot of work involved. I know they say it's about 15 hours a week. Sometimes you can take or leave that. I mean, sometimes it could be 10 hours a week. Sometimes more than often it's 15 hours a week. But I suppose coming to submissions or when there's things due, it might be a bit more. And for me, who's working kind of full time, and I've been trying to reduce the part time, but I do work and I've got a family, so it was quite tricky to delegate. But it's just a matter of planning, because I mean, with work, thankfully I have a bit of advanced knowledge and I can plan, and it's just a matter of putting the study into doing that, whether it's on weekday evenings or trying to make up at the weekends. But I honestly think about 15 hours a week is a good estimation, but throwing in. But usually when submissions and stuff like that are in place, it's at like, you know, it's at holidays when my kids are off school, or, you know, and it does make it a bit easier because I do have a bit more time at home. So it's just a delegation. It's just factoring it really. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm getting there.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you. What was for you? What was it that you enjoyed the most about doing this?
The funny thing is the things that I thought I would enjoy the most, the things that I hated, that I thought I would hate, like, I mean, I'm not very good with kind of some of the business and accountancy elements, and I thought, oh my God, I can't, you know, I'm gonna dread this coming. But again, the tutor was actually, she was so fantastic and really laid it out, and I actually enjoyed it. And it was some elements, it was more like a bit of a puzzle and trying to solve a puzzle. And it just, I suppose, it just became like a kind of obtaining another skill and trying to diversify that into and taking other knowledge and in that learning, overcoming that. And now I've actually become quite good at it. And as a result of that, in my MSc, I'm actually doing, part of it is to do with statistical data and stuff, which I never thought I would get into. And yet here I am learning programming, different kind of skills, knowledge, and applying it to my daily life, which will go on to other things when I'm done. So it's the unexpected comes from, you know, what I was writing off as something in my mind changed and then became the unexpected. So the little surprises that came through, and it's really down to the quality, I think, of the tutors and the professors and everything, you know.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Joel. That was really, really helpful. Thank you. So as I mentioned, we do have another student on with us this evening. So her name is Breeshey. So she is currently on her second year. So Breeshey, if you would like to, again, just talk to us a little bit about yourself, just what have you been enjoying most about doing your MSc and your experience with doing the online distance learning?
Okay. Yeah, so I joined not the September just gone, but the previous September. My background was always a little bit sciencey. I studied biology at university, I taught biology for a while, and now I work for the climate change team in the Isle of Man government. So science had always been a bit of a theme, but I was really keen to take that into more sustainability and particularly agriculture, partly through personal interest, partly through the fact my partner is a farmer. So there's a little bit of being able to be more involved in that side of it myself as well. But I felt that it's such a kind of interesting aspect of sustainability and an area that is changing a lot at the moment in terms of the policy changes, in terms of the movements to kind of more sustainable agriculture and that being much more mainstream. It felt like an area that I really needed to learn about a bit more myself before trying to go down that path. So this course has provided really the perfect opportunity to do that alongside a full-time job. And really, I felt there were very few opportunities and very few courses out there that ticked those boxes and fit the bill in that way. So being able to have that flexibility of the distance learning, of sometimes, you know, when possible, making it over to SRUC, making it over to Scotland to actually be able to attend the in-person OPET, the study weekends. But worst case scenario, the fantastic support of that being an online experience as well, whether you're watching it live during the classroom sessions or watching any of the visits back on the recordings. So I think for me, the flexibility of the course has just been second to none. There are weeks where you do have a bit more time to sit down and do a bit more steady work and to attend the evening sessions live. There's other weeks where you're busier and actually you're not able to attend them, or you have to fit in a bit more at the weekends or the holidays, as Joel said. And the fact that you can do that, you can manage your own time around the requirements of the courses is really just, it enables it to be something that's manageable alongside your life, and alongside if you're working full-time or even part-time alongside that as well. I think for me as well, the programme structure, that's a really positive aspect in terms of the fact that there are courses that are compulsory, and I think, as Joel said, I definitely agree that some of the ones that are compulsory wouldn't have been my first choice, but they're probably the ones that I've learnt the most from. I would say that the accounting and the business side as well was a weakness for me. But then the optional courses allow you to really specialise in terms of what your interest and what your future direction, where you'd like that to take you really. And I think, yes, you are speaking to people who are actually in the thick of this, people who are doing the research or working on farms or working in policy. Everyone is at the cutting edge of the work they're doing in sustainability and agriculture, and that resource in those conversations is just brilliant. But I think for me, one of the most positive things has been meeting the other students on the course, whether that's in our calls during the evenings, whether that's in our WhatsApp group, whether that's in the visits to the study weekends, to find like-minded people who are thinking in the same way about sustainability and about the future of agriculture, and all the different ideas they have and the things they're bringing to the table. For me, that's been such a beneficial and positive aspect of doing the course.
Thank you so much, Breeshey. That was really, really helpful. Thank you. So now, if it's okay with everyone, we will move on to our Q&A section of the evening. So once again, please feel free to add on any questions to the Q&A chat box there. In the meantime, just to get us started, unfortunately, a couple of our attendees had to pop out, but they have emailed across some of the questions, so we'll just start with those. So potentially for yourself, Lou and Robin, we have someone asking how many people are expected to attend on this year's course?
We would hope to get about 15 people as a minimum. That would be our aim. But there's likely to be a cap of about 25. So somewhere between 15 and 25 is what we would hope for. But because this is a new course, we don't really know. But yeah, 15 is what we would be aiming for as a minimum.
Perfect, thank you. And there's another question here, more probably directed to Breeshey and Joel. So for the two students speaking, what would be the advice that you would give to someone joining the course this year? I don't know which one of you would like to answer that.
Joel, I'm happy to go first if that works for you.
Yeah, go for it.
I think my advice would be to make sure that you do feel you can commit the time to it really, whilst that is flexible and whilst that can be on your own terms. To really do it justice, you do need to be able to find that self-study time and that kind of wider reading time and potentially the travel up to the study weekends as well. It's really beneficial to be able to go to at least some of them. So I think knowing that you can make that commitment and manage that commitment, I think that would be my best advice really. Bear in mind that it's flexible, but make sure that you do feel you can commit to that.
And yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with that. And I think also that just being open to the whole science subject and in learning all these new things and in so much detail, but I suppose also with the diverse range of people that are going to lecture you and teach you things is just immense. But for me, the study weekends were really key, I suppose, to be able to practically see producers, going into, you know, just seeing it in a practical sense, and also meeting the students, and obviously meeting the professors and the different people that are involved in it is key, and it just creates that whole bond. But yeah, I mean, I can't recommend it enough.
Perfect. Thank you so much once again. So let me just see. I do believe we've got another question here. So what are the subjects of the main modules of this course? I would leave that to you, Lou or Robin.
I can take that on if you want. Evening, Doug. So the course has 8 taught modules, of which 4 are the core ones. So in year 1, the core modules are the principles and policy for sustainable agriculture. So that will be looking at what underpins some of the farming systems that we would be expecting to, you know, to think about, whether that's organic or agroecology or regenerative. Obviously, some of those have one of those has a legal definition, other ones have principles that are associated with them. And also looking at the policy behind farming systems, so not just what that is, but where that might go. The other core module in first year is the soils in sustainable systems. As I said earlier, soils kind of underpin whatever kind of farming system it is that we're talking about. So it's a really, really critical part of the sort of groundwork that we feel that people need to have. If you go into year 2 for the PG dip, then the 2 core modules there are one that we've called Global Challenges in Sustainable Agriculture. So that's really asking students to delve quite deeply into particular topical issues around agricultural systems and maybe within a wider context. And that really involves a great deal of the critical analysis that Robin was talking about earlier. And the final core module is research, design and analysis. So that's a module that's really designed to get you thinking about interpretation of data and would be particularly useful in setting up those going forward into the MSc, but it also just a useful skill to have. So those are the modules that you have to do. And then there's a list of elective modules that you can choose for the other 4.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Lou. So I do believe that is all the questions that we had there. So once again, I would just like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you to Lou and Robin for the presentation, and as well for Breeshey and Joel to join us this evening as well to talk to us a little bit about their experience. So after this event, if you have registered, you will receive a link to view the recording, but it will also be made available on our YouTube channel and social media as well. In case if you've got any questions with regards to this particular programme, just feel free to email us on study@sruc.ac.uk, and our lovely team will be able to assist you with any questions. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.